My mic turned on? Yep, now it is. Good morning. Thank you. It's a joy to welcome everybody to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Harford County. I remain Kimberly Roberts. My pronouns are she and her. And leading the service with me this morning are Sandy Gibbons, Rob Lieb, and Brenna Kufferman on the piano. I'd like to extend a welcome to first-time visitors. I don't know if we have any today, but if you are here, welcome. Please consider staying after the service for some coffee and to share conversation with us. Unitarian Universalism is a tradition that values diversity and embraces the wisdom of all faiths. We use science, reason, and the gifts of the Spirit to explore life's meaning and mystery. Whatever the faiths you have known, if any, you are welcome here. Whatever your race or where you were born, whatever your immigration status or country of origin, you are welcome here. Whoever you are, whatever your gender, whomever you love, you are welcome here. We gather in community to restore the balance of our spirits, to celebrate the joys of life and find strength to meet our sorrows. And in the earliest meaning of the word worship, to consider ideas that are worthy of our time and attention. And in this tradition, we know that people need not think alike to love alike.
Before we move into the rest of the service, I wanted to say a couple of words about the prelude. Now, when I was mulling over the topic of this particular sermon, I realized, and this service, I realized that we needed musical selections that would kind of capture the awe and mysticism of the natural world and our perception of it. And out of the back of my memory from somewhere in my teenage years when I discovered a collection of vocal music on my father's extensive music collection, I remembered a track from an album called Hearing Solar Winds by a group called the Harmonic Choir. And this is a group that specializes in using the natural overtone series in the human voice, borrowing from many vocal traditions that has developed, including the Tibetan tradition. You'll be familiar with the Tuvan tradition, perhaps. But it uses the vocal apparatus to modulate and accentuate different elements in that harmonic series, in that very mathematically defined series of overtones that make up the spectrum of the human and of any musical sound. So with that, may the sounds of our bell and the music of our prelude center us in as we enter into a time of worship. Buckle up. The cosmos is all that ever was or ever will be. Our feeblest contemplation of the cosmos stirs us. There is a tingling in the spine, a catch in the voice, a faint sensation as if approaching the greatest of mysteries. Please join us in our opening hymn, Immortal, Invisible, God Only Wise, number 273 in your hymnal.
Immortal, invisible, God only wise, in light inaccessible, hid from our eyes, most blessed, most glorious, the Ancient of Days, the mighty, victorious, the great name we praise. Unresting, unhasting, and silent as night, nor wanting, nor wasting, thou rulest in might. Thy justice like mountains, and roaring above, on clouds and big mountains of goodness and love. To all life thou givest, too great and too small. In all life thou livest, the truest of all. Thy Lord we would render, oh help us to see the splendor of that hidden
Our chalice lighting are drawn from the words from The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. As buds give rise by growth to fresh buds, and these, if vigorous, branch out and overtop many a feebler branch, so it has been with the great tree of life, which fills with its dead and broken branches the crust of the earth, and covers the surface with its ever-branching and beautiful ramifications.
One commitment that we make as members of a covenantal Unitarian Universalist community is to care for one another. We take a moment each Sunday so congregants can share a joy, a sorrow, or a gratitude. And just as we care for those in our community, we extend our concern and compassion for those in the wider world. There are many who are suffering and afraid, and we begin by lighting a candle for them. And if you would like to share this morning, please come forward and speak into that microphone over there, and I'll light a candle for you. And if you're on Zoom, if you would, please place your message in the chat, and Brenna will read it aloud while I light a candle for you. And just a gentle reminder, it's not a time for announcements or politics or to share someone else's story unless you got their permission to do so. As people speak, let's listen with attention and hold one another in love. And if you're on Zoom, again, please share via the chat. We remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with the faith that together we can make a difference. If you're on Zoom, please click the link in the Zoom chat to contribute, or use your smartphone to find the donate links on the homepage, uufhc.net. There are 2 links, one for pledges and one for general offerings. And if you're in the sanctuary, the basket will be coming around. However we do it, by basket or button, let us give in reverent acknowledgement that we are all a part of the greatest of mysteries.
Maybe we're just one of a million tiny galaxies hurtling on towards some unrevealed destiny. Maybe we're somebody's unfinished symphony. Maybe we're the defenders of the indefensible, just trying to make some sense of the incomprehensible. But what if we are? What if we are stars? Maybe we're the victims of reincarnation. Maybe we're the phantoms of manifestation. Maybe we're just here to fix our mistakes again. Maybe we're planets like Venus and Saturn, surrounded by gases and protons and atoms. And what if we are? What if we are only stars? Maybe this world is just thinner than it seems. Maybe we're all partners in the same lucid dream, yeah. Maybe we're all vapors, maybe with just steam. Maybe we're creatures of habit and malice that pale in the light of the aurora borealis. And what if we are? What if we are holy stars in the dark? Holy stars, just a spark. Maybe we're just lucky and blessed to bear witness to the flashing of this meteor, the tail of this comet. Maybe we're cursed, maybe we're fortunate. Maybe we just go on our milky white way. Maybe we get to stay. And what if we are? What if we are? What if we are stars?
I have a reading from Joseph Fourier, who, from the analytic theory of heat, he was a mathematician during the 19th century. And as I'm going to speak of later, we have principles of belief in science and mathematics. This is one of his. There cannot be a language more universal and more simple, more free from errors and obstacles, more worthy to express the invariable relations of natural things than mathematics. It interprets all phenomena by the same language as if it attests to the unity and simplicity of the plan of the universe. To make it all more relevant and unchangeable in their order, which presides over all natural causes. And the ironic part of this statement is that even he back then, this statement is still true, but mathematics has grown into a much, much bigger order of belief than this. So if you believe in something, it's important to remember that you have to keep testing it in order for it to blossom or fail. If it fails, you have to change it. Do I go forward now? Okay. So this is my reflection. It's called The Nature of Belief. Everyone believes in something. A better statement can be made that everyone who wishes to make a statement that they consider to be true believes in a fundamental foundation upon which that truth resides. There are other names for these statements: axioms, core beliefs, self-evident truths. The main difference between scientific core beliefs and religious core beliefs is that scientific core beliefs must be falsifiable. That is, they must be able to be tested. For example, the universal constant of gravity. That's something that physicists believe in. But we have to test that, and we've done that by looking at old planetary systems that existed billions of years ago, and they still follow the same rules of physics as they do in our solar system. Religious core beliefs are often believed to be immutable, preordained, fixed, or simply just made up. Let's do a little investigation into this difference. If your core beliefs are founded in declarations assumed to be true, then you may end up with conclusions that are dictated by something that might not be true. Why is that? Well, ironically, systems that are based on false premises result in false conclusions that are logically true. So if you want to be sure that your conclusion aligns with reality, it is important that your premises are as true as possible. Otherwise, a person could easily end up believing something false is true. In addition, it is difficult to escape the consequences of that process. Nature, you see, bats last and bats 1,000%. When I was 7, I was a firm believer in the God that was presented to me by my parents and church. My parents told me about God, the one God, and it sounded pretty good. Sending souls forever to hell didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I was never going to go anywhere near mortal sin anyhow, so. Still, I realized that forever is a long time. However, when I was 8, I was introduced to the Trinity. They said that God the Father was equal to God the Son, who is also equal to God the Holy Spirit, and they were all equal but separate. And they were all one. All kinds of flags were waving inside my head. And I said, wait a minute. I suspended my belief in God that I had previously invited into my heart and looked for the reason for this significant change in plan. It took me years, but I finally concluded that the church contrived to get people to expand their God belief to include Jesus. I found that they deified Christ in 325 AD at the Council of Nicaea. And I concluded that the thought must have run through their minds that if we can get them to believe this, then we got them. They will believe anything. I turned a mite cynical. I was 12 by then and falling in love with physics, which has falsifiable premises. Physics has a belief structure. However, its structure is encouraged to be mutable. If you look at the history of physics, you will see false discoveries falling like old dead trees in a forest, and saplings being constantly generated that are rapidly growing, seeking to know what's true. Those saplings know that they will grow not to define truth, but if successful, the concept of reality that they pose will get a little bit closer to the nature of what is true. Truth is a deep dive that reveals new levels as old levels are better understood. It provides for humans a stepping stone path into the forest of reality, where we can travel deep into the woods of understanding, knowing that we will likely never reach the end of trees. One purpose of human existence, it seems to me, is to help guide the universe into understanding itself. And we become a participant in the universe's process of becoming, getting as close to the truth as we can, knowing we will never fully achieve that task. Along the way, however, there are moments of deep insight and gratification. These moments make existence overabundantly worthwhile. So what is the difference between mutable and immutable systems of belief? Both systems end up with never finding the ultimate truth about the universe. However, the scientific starts off knowing that it never will. The religious approach promises ultimate knowledge as an end goal, although there is no evidence that that has ever been achieved. In addition, The religious approach has not been actually immutable. It just seems to take decades or centuries to shift its premises. The concept of God has changed significantly throughout history, and perhaps both systems have evolved to capture a broader collection of humans who travel through this existence, like two bound conveyances traveling through that forest of time. We will arrive in the future together, and we are certainly entangled with each other. Hopefully we can share life experiences to make this passage the best it can be.
Our second reading of the day is actually, I realized that I had given you The Origin of Species earlier, and now I'm going to give you a reading from Cosmos, from Carl Sagan. For we are the local embodiment of a cosmos grown to self-awareness. And these are the closing words of the novel, the last ones were the opening words. We have begun to contemplate our origins, star stuff contemplating the stars. Organized assemblages of 10 billion atoms considering the evolution of atoms, tracing the long journey by which here at last consciousness arose. Our loyalties are to the species and to the planet. We speak for Earth. Our obligation to survive is owed not just to ourselves, but also to that cosmos, ancient and vast, from which we spring. So in the now seemingly halcyon days of 1998, at the age of 25, I found myself applying to graduate schools in the biomedical sciences. I was returning to a dream that, like many others in my current field, had caught my fancy while binge reading a copy of Richard Preston's The Hot Zone. Given that that book describes an Ebola virus outbreak in a Reston, Virginia-based housing facility for monkeys destined for research laboratories, my library queries and what passed for internet searches in those days had become interesting even by pre-9/11 standards. So one of the rituals in that application process is the interview weekend, and where applicants who made the first cut into in the application process are invited up in the spring for a visit to the campus, interviews with faculty members, and sufficient time with the other graduate students, sometimes over not too small amounts of libations, to learn enough about the culture of the institution to make a hopefully informed decision about where one would be spending the next God knows how many years. On the last day of my candidacy weekend, I decided to attend the service in this at Duke Chapel. Those of you unfamiliar with that particular venue should picture a large Gothic chapel verging on the size of a cathedral that might be more at home in Cambridge, and I don't mean the Cambridge in Massachusetts. The place has no less than 3 organs. It is awesome. I sat in the pews, joined in the opening hymn, which we not coincidentally also sang earlier in this service. And I watched the large choir process from the narthex to the nave to the stalls in the chapel. It is the custom for processional hymns and of that sort for the organist to monitor the progress of the choir and to improvise something after the penultimate verse to buy time for the large body of choristers and celebrants to get wherever it is they need to get in the church. Having performed many such processions while singing as a paid chorister in the High Episcopal Church in Savannah for the previous years, I had some idea of what to expect. I did not expect a bolt out of the blue, a road to Damascus-like epiphany that would set my path for the next 32 years of my life, up to now. But as I listened to the organist blithely riff on the opening triad of Immortal Invisible, embellishing it with spiraling arpeggios, clarion calls from the trumpet stops, and surrounded by the beauty of sun-drenched stained glass, and coming straight out of an intense series of discussions with brilliant minds in biochemistry, cell biology, biophysics, every other field imaginable, including the field that I find myself in now, which is microbiology, I knew I had a home. What I had been struck with, again after many years, was wonder. And I found myself in a state where I could feel that unification of the elements of faith, our knowledge of the complex, beautiful, and terrifying power of nature, and of the music and art that represents our feeble attempts as human beings to reconcile those disparate strains of our experience in this mind-blowingly interconnected web of existence. So many scientists have shared similar sentiments over the centuries. We heard some of it in Fourier's Paean to Mathematics. It's captured in our invocation and the opening and the introductory reading today from Cosmos, which is Carl Sagan's love letter to science and to the universe. You hear it in Charles Darwin's writing. His entire volume of Origin of Species is sprinkled with his marveling at the diversity of life. And he's developing his theory of evolution to provide a mechanism to explain the emergence of the manifold exuberance of living beings. Now, science doesn't do that marvel thing all in and of itself. Science is the process of the rigorous exploration of the universe. It's based on methodical observation, testing, disputation, modeling, inference, to build a body of knowledge that accumulates incrementally over time. And it would seem to an outsider and anybody who's read a large number of scientific papers sometimes to be dispassionate, cold, rational, and devoid of those elements of awe. Some of that perception actually rings true. You don't typically hear our science is an awesome science sung to a rock and roll aesthetic in a megachurch of empiricism, for example. Yet that feeling of awe is common among scientists, and it's an awe at that transcendental power and magnificence that has a lot in common with the religious, spiritual experience of that being overwhelmed or filled with the Holy Spirit, for example. I would argue that for many scientists, that awe arises not from that arduous process of learning, but of the product, that vast body of knowledge, and what's more, the certainty that no matter how large that body of knowledge gets, the vastness of the universe and the complexity of life will dwarf our attempts to grasp it. I think a lot of this sentiment is captured well, not by a scientist, but by a poet, Walt Whitman. In his poem, On the Beach at Night Alone, he writes, "On the beach at night alone, as the old mother sways her to and fro, singing her husky song, as I watch the bright stars shining, I think a thought of the clef of the universes and of the future. A vast similitude interlocks all spheres, grown, ungrown, small, large, suns, moons, planets, all distances of place, however wide, all distances of time, all inanimate forms, all souls, all living bodies, though they be ever so different or in different worlds, all gaseous, watery, vegetable, mineral processes, the fishes, the brutes, all nations, colors, barbarism, civilizations, languages, all identities that have existed or may exist on the globe or any globe, all lives and deaths, or all of the past, present, future. This vast similitude spans them, and has always spanned, and shall forever span them, and compactly hold and enclose them." All that's lacking is a few billions and billions in there, and you pretty much got another excerpt from Cosmos. While we are living in a golden age of exploration, with Hubble and Webb telescopes revealing the farthest galaxies, with the images from confocal immunofluorescent microscopy illuminating the complex structures of cells at the smallest scale, or the smallest light observable scales, and powerful particle accelerators uncovering the most fundamental structures of matter. And never before in human history have the opportunities to experience these awesome phenomena been so open to such a large fraction of the human population. And yet, I don't think I need to remind anyone in this room how important it is that we begin to evangelize this enthusiasm, this discipline, that we make a concerted effort to pass on our exuberance to our neighbors about this awe and this incredible body, and to the next generation, because as Carl Sagan implores us, we speak for Earth. We must speak for science. And our willingness to do so may literally save the world. At the conclusion of her latter-day devotional, The Sacred Depths of Nature, renowned cell biologist Ursula Goodenough, who was kind enough to sign my own copy, writes, "The realization that I needn't have answers to the big questions, needn't seek answers to the big questions, has served as an epiphany. I lie on my back under the stars and the unseen galaxies, and I let their enormity wash over me. I assimilate the vastness of the distances, the impermanence, the fact of it all. And I take in the abstractions about forces and symmetries, and they caress me like Gregorian chants, the meaning of the words not mattering because the words are so haunting. And as I allow myself to experience the cosmic and quantum mystery, I join the saints and the visionaries in their experience of what they called the divine, and I pulse with the spirit, if not the words, of my favorite hymn. And you guessed what it is, Immortal Invisible." These authors all speak to the magnificence of the cosmos and of our ability to perceive but a fraction of its complexity. Those glimpses, as if through a glass darkly, bounced between mirrors, prisms, lenses, photomultiplier tubes, CCD cameras, whether in particle accelerators, telescopes, microscopes, remind us to wonder, to see again with the eyes of children, and to feel the excitement of knowing a beauty that enfolds us and surrounds us all. Please join us in our closing hymn, For the Beauty of the Earth, number 21 in your hymnals.
For the wonder of each hour of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, folk and moon and stars of light, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Me, a beauty is behind me. Above me and below me hovers the beautiful. I am surrounded by it. I am immersed in it. In my youth, I am aware of it. And in my old age, I shall walk quietly the beautiful trail. In beauty, it is begun. In beauty, it is ended. Words drawn from the Navajo.
As we extinguish this flame, may we carry its memory with us into the streets, into the places where holiness is hard to see, but always waiting to be noticed. Let us go with eyes open for wonder in the worn out, with reverence for each passerby, and with the knowing that the sacred does not hide from the world, it lives in it. Go now, not to escape the brokenness, but to journey beside it, and sometimes to bless.
We conclude this service with an excerpt from a work that, for me at least, exemplifies the union of the spiritual and mathematical while capturing the wonder and exuberance of the cosmos itself. That is the Sanctus movement. That's the holy, holy, holy Lord God Almighty. Heaven and earth are full of your glory. From Bach's B minor Mass.
Thank you, Rob and Sandy. So our announcements today, the program for children and youth is always looking for volunteers for Sunday programming, and we need fellowship members to step up and support our children and youth. You may not know it, but currently we are only able to run one classroom due to not having enough volunteers. That means that grades kindergarten through 12 are all in one classroom. This inability to run two classrooms is hindering the depth and types of programming that we are able to provide. So we're going to hold a volunteer huddle and training for current and new volunteers on March 15th after the service at noon, and there will be lunch provided. We encourage you to come and join us. There is no need to wait until March to get involved, however. Just reach out to our director today during coffee hour, during potluck. Sarah, our director, is named Sarah Weck, and she will be here. You can also email her at director@uufhc.net. We also have the shelter coming up, and we need some volunteers to help on February 13th and March 13th. So you can reach out to me. I'm your contact there. And Paul has an announcement for us.
Good morning, I'm Paul. I just want to remind everybody that we have our stewardship drive coming up, which actually begins March 8th. And this is a time where we get together and think about how we can give back to this church that gives us so much spiritual uplift and hope. So please think about that as we're moving closer to that date. As part of that effort, we have this glorious kickoff event that will take place on March 7th, and we will have great food and drink and ice cream and live music. So please mark that on your calendars. That's March 7th. We have a potluck today, and as part of that, we want to provide some educational opportunities, and we're going to have Mark come up and give us sort of a quick overview of the 26-27 budget as we move into stewardship. And then afterwards, the board, in concert with Reverend Jay, has put together a policy on right relations that we tried to talk about a month ago, but we had a conflict with the Minnesota protest, and so we're going to do that today as well. So please, if you can, join us. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you didn't bring any food for potluck, no worries. There's always plenty, so please stay anyway. Marlene?
Firstly, someone left these on the table, car keys with a Wawa and a pad. Okay, I'll get them to you. Secondly, it's time to sign up for Circle Brunch, Circle Dinners. If you are unaware of what that is, just grab me. I'll be here through potluck. And the sign-up sheets are on the table next to the coffee. It's always a fun time and a great way to get to know each other better.
Laura?
I'm here to tell you about the overnight retreat in May. It's May 15th and 16th. We are hoping to have everyone who's interested contact Cindy Curry by March 1st. Her information is in the news bites, and we're hoping you will join us, and flyers will be placed in the coming week out front. Thank you.
Thank you. So if everyone can help us set up for potluck, and in the meantime, those who aren't doing the tables, go get yourself a cup of coffee.